welcome back to my channel. My name is Nichelle. Today I'm going to be doing I just hit my plant. Sorry, plant. I'm going to be doing the mid-year book check. I have looked through these questions because I've been watching these videos. I've been watching everyone post them. I love seeing them. I love getting an update on how everyone's reading year is going. But I haven't sat down and like fully thought out answers for all of them. So it'll be a little bit more, I keep hitting my plant. I'm talking with my hands too much probably. That means this is going to be a little bit more off the cuff as I kind of reflect back at the first 6 months of the year. The first question is, how is your reading year going? Not great. I don't know if this year is worse than last year or about on par with last year, but I just like am way under where I'd like to be. I think I'm in the 30s, like 33 books so far read this year. And for me, I'd like to be closer to 50 books at this point in the year because I feel I'm the happiest when I'm reading about 2 books a week. That is what makes me the happiest because I know myself and I'm not replacing reading with like something else that is enriching. Like for a lot of this year, I've been replacing reading with TikTok. And I just know that's worse for my brain. And so we're trying to get back into a rhythm of reading regularly. But one of the things that's been happening, and I have like heard of this from other writers, is sometimes your writer brain can't turn off when you switch into book reading mode, and you can like really feel the author and feel the editors and feel like the publishing process behind a book. And it's not as much fun. It's not as immersive an experience. And that has just like kept happening to me. And I don't think it's the fault of the books. I think it is the fault of kind of a stressful year in terms of my writing, which I will get to. I'm going to add a few questions that's going to be a mid-year writing check-in too. I read significantly more books than I write, so I talk more about those. Honestly, because it's more interesting. No offense to my own books. Best book I've read so far in 2023. This one is a close one. There are 2 books that come to mind immediately. The first one being Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I loved this book. It was a book that had been on my TBR for a while, and I finally got around to reading it, and I just absolutely loved it. It was like not what I was expecting. It was going to show up again on this list because it was not what I was expecting, but I felt like it was a literary fiction that was also like incredibly propulsive. Like it was thoughtful, like a literary fiction novel, had a lot to say about like what it means to be a person, but it also kept me reading because there's like a fun little cult aspect. And the other one that I loved was The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. I read this for a video that I think I scrapped where I was reading booktuber favorites, and I just was not reading at a pace fast enough to allow for me to actually publish this video. It's okay. But I like absolutely loved this book. I have read some of Roshani Chokshi's YA stuff. I loved the book The Star Touched Queen by her, and this book is also like equally as good, maybe even better. This is like a gothic horror that is about like toxic friendship, and the writing is just like beautiful. Like I loved the writing. Very like spooky pretty, which is like my favorite type of writing. Spooky pretty. Best sequel I've read so far in 2023 is, I knew this question was coming and that's why it didn't show up in my last answer, is right there. I didn't pull it because I didn't pull any books, and that is the most recent Magnolia Parks book. This is Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home. If you're familiar with Magnolia Parks, the series is like a little bit complicated to explain. The setup is a little weird, but this is the last book in the Magnolia BJ kind of like story arc, although there are more books coming in the series. And I just felt like it was such a beautiful conclusion to their story. I have loved each book in this series more. And I just thought like this book it was very slow. It was much like softer than the other books in the series, but I just felt like it was a tender, beautiful conclusion to BJ and Magnolia's arc. Favorite reread. If you've been around my channel and you have seen what I've been posting lately, you'll know that I've been rereading Thread of Glass and making videos about them, recapping them, and that has been just like such a delight. I think my favorite, if I had to pick one of the Throne of Glass books that was like my favorite reread of the year, I would have to say Empire of Storms. Queen of Shadows is my favorite Throne of Glass book, but Empire of Storms I just had a new appreciation for. I just finished it. I actually think the last Empire of Storms video is coming out either this week or last week, depending on when I get this video posted. And when the first time I read through the series, I read Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn as a tandem read. I did the tandem read, and I loved the tandem read. I think it was a gorgeous way to go through it. But reading Empire of Storms on its own was just like, what a delight. And I cried so much in it. so much. If you're watching that last video in that series, you'll just see me cry. Genre that you've been loving reading the most. The genre I've been loving reading the most, I think, is probably romance, but I'm not going to talk about that because I don't want to. I'm going to talk about, I've been like really getting back into thrillers lately. When I first started kind of reading again for recreation after college, which, because in college I really didn't read very much. I started with thrillers. I loved a thriller, and it was like the golden age of domestic thrillers. I feel like it was when like The Last Mrs. Parrish was coming out. Gone Girl had just become a movie. It was like, I really felt like the golden age of domestic thrillers, but they all started to have the exact same twist as The Last Mrs. Parrish. If you read The Last Mrs. Parrish, you'll know. And I really was I was tired of stories that really read the same, these like husband-wife dynamics. I was kind of over it. And recently I've been getting back into them because I feel like the genre has like really broadened, and like every tale I read that's a thriller is like vastly different, and I've been loving that. If you have any good thriller recommendations, please let me know, because I have been just like eating them up. Biggest surprise, like I already mentioned it, but my biggest surprise and like pleasant surprise was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I went into this book expecting kind of like a literary fiction novel, something I was gonna have to like chew on. It was gonna be like slow to digest. There's gonna be like a lot of thoughts, because like it's a National Book Award winner. It is like was on like President Obama's list of favorite books. Like it's a book that like has some like, I don't know, some like literary merit. And I feel like I enjoy those books, but those books tend to be slower reads for me. I'll read them over the course of a couple weeks, reading kind of like a few chapters at a time. Station 11 like had those elements. It's a dystopian novel about kind of a COVID-esque type virus that takes over and knocks out like 95% of the population, and kind of like the desolateness that is left, and this group of people that are traveling in like a Shakespearean they perform Shakespeare, which is what I knew about it, and Shakespeare is never going to be a selling point for me. Sorry, I'm just like not that girl. I like wish I was a Shakespeare girl, but I'm not. And I was just expecting something that was like really plotting to some extent, but this book was so propulsive. We're following like a lot of different timelines, a lot of different people as they experience this end of days sort of event. And there's also like a crazy cult that gets pulled in towards the end. I was like flipping pages. I needed to know what happened next. It was so much more than I anticipated it being, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to reading more Emily St. John Mandel. I think The Glass Hotel is on my summer TBR, but I haven't actually started it yet. Book that made you cry. If you know anything about me, I'm a crier. I am a crier. So the list of books that did not make me cry might actually be shorter. Let's see. On my note, I think the book that actually made me cry the most this year is probably Empire of Storms. And probably by the end of the year, maybe Kingdom of Ash, because those Throne of Glass books do really get me. But that's a reread. If we're counting first time reads, I think Keeping 13, which is the second book in the series where I did not read the first book on purpose. You can watch my, I don't know, month that is, I'll put what reading wrap up that is if you want the whole story of what happened there. But it is like this Irish YA I guess is it new adult or YA? I don't know. They're like in their late teens, like little romance, and it did make me sob. Just for the Summer made me cry. Funny Story made me cry by Emily Henry. I just read Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. That book made me cry. Like, it's not hard to make me cry. It's not a feat. No, my gosh, I'm lying to you guys. I'm lying absolutely. The book that made me cry the most was Magnolia Park's Long Way Home. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was telling you about other books. This book made me cry so much. Grief is like a very important theme that runs through like the core of this book. That's really what this book is exploring grief and trauma, and I thought it was done really beautifully, but it was like a painful read at times. Absolutely stunningly done. I thought it was gorgeous and tender and beautiful and amazing, but it did wreck me. That is the actual answer. That's the book that's made me cry the most this year. A book that made you happy. I've been on a real Ali Hazelwood kick. I will forever and always be apologetic about how I handled the Love Hypothesis, because I was like, I don't understand the hype. And now I'm like fully on board with Ali Hazelwood. I have not read her latest release. I'm eager to, waiting desperately to read that one. But Ali Hazelwood never fails to make me smile. I read both Check and Mate and Bride by her this year, and they both made my life better. Most beautiful book you bought this year. I have not bought a lot of books so far this year. I think the only two I've actually purchased this year would be, I purchased Funny Story and I purchased Expiration Dates by Rebecca Surley this year. And I think they're both cute. They're both like pretty classic rom-com books. I'm not like obsessed with either of their covers, but I like the blurple of Funny Story. We're going back. I like skipped a ton of questions. But then it should go, new release you haven't read yet but want to. Okay. New release I haven't read yet, but want to. I really want to read the new Ali Hazelwood book. I'm really excited about that. There's a new Riley Sager that I'll probably read. Lucy Foley. Those are all like classics that like just came out this month. I will for sure read those. And then for like the second half of the year, I'm desperate to read the Blackbird Oracle by Deborah Harkness. I love the Discovery of Witches books, and that comes out later this month, and I will be definitely reading that. Oh, the second book in the Powerless series by Lauren Roberts. Classic romantasy. Eager to read that up as well. I don't know. Lots of books. I like really hope I'm reading more in the second half of the year. Biggest disappointment. Okay, I try not to talk negatively about books on here. This book just wasn't for me. I know a lot of people have loved it, and I like hate to put any negativity towards it. It was just not the right book for me. Okay, I think it was a very well done book. Obviously, people love it. I just like did not like the mix, and that is The Butcher and the Blackbird by Brandon Weaver. It just like wasn't for me. It was like a little too gory right next to spice. Like the like it gave me whiplash going from like popping people's eyeballs out to like spicy time. Like it was just a little, it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. It might be for you. I hope it is for you. And then, sorry, I like was like, I don't want to talk negatively, and then I'm gonna give you another one that was a little disappointing for me. Just because I hate when everyone, I like am a bandwagoner till I die. If everyone's reading a book and loving a book, I want to read and love a book too. I was gonna say I'm not a hater, and in some ways I am a hater, but when it comes to like books, popular media, I'm a bandwagoner. Okay, like I like to be where the people are. And another book that I read that everyone loved that I just didn't like totally vibe with, again, not a bad book, and like enjoyed parts of it but just didn't fall in love with it the way some people had, was Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This was on everyone's favorite list in like 2022, I think, and I had been putting it off, and I finally read it, and I just didn't fall in love with it the same way that people did. Like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good story. I thought it was pretty solid, but I didn't love it the way some people did, and I was sad that I didn't love it the way they loved it. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? I've already talked about it, but I need to read the Ali Hazelwood. I need to read the Blackbird Oracle. I need to finish Anna Karenina. Anna Karenina just like sits right there. You can always see her in the videos because she's just sitting back there. Because I sit on that bed behind me and read it like most days. Most days. I would be done with it if I read it most days. Occasionally I will go and read some chapters out of it. It's very good. I'm enjoying Anna Karenina. Okay? It's just very long. And I don't casually read it. Like, I have to be like committing to like sitting down. I have the book in front of me. I'm listening to the audiobook. I like do both at the same time to like really get my brain engaged. I'm like underlining and annotating, and then I'm like making notes. I'm like taking it very seriously, and so it's just been slow going. But I am enjoying it. I'm like 2/3 the way through it, and I'm gonna finish it this year. I also said that last year. I've been working on this book for almost 2 years at this point. One day I'm gonna finish it. One day. Favorite video or post you've done so far this year? I would have to say my Throne of Glass videos are my favorite. I love making them. They are so much fun to make. They're so cool. To reread the series that I love so much and just like chat about it. Like, I truly love Throne of Glass. I don't think I could do, I know a lot of people do like recaps. They're like, recapping this book so you don't have to read it. And I would never do that. I like want you to read Throne of Glass. I want you to read those words. I just want to sit here and chat about it with you. Like, I could only do a recap series like I'm doing for Throne of Glass. I'm sure I will do other series, but like they have to be series that I enjoy and love because I'm spending so much time with them. And I don't know, it just made me have like a deeper appreciation for those books. And I do love them so much. I can't pick a favorite out of those. They're all great. Maybe Queen of Shadows video 2, where Manon and Aelin meet for the first time, because that's some of my favorite chapters. And then favorite book community members. Let's see, who do I love watching BookTube. I watch a lot of the big girlies. I watch Books and Lala, as I just talked about. I love Megan the Books. I love Recovering Book Snob is one of my favorites. She's this like, I found her from her Anna Karenina video because she read Anna Karenina in like a week because she's braver than I. And I love her videos. She's a smaller booktuber and I really enjoy her. Chandler Ainsley is always a favorite. Love her romance content. Those are some of my favorites. I watch so many though. I'm probably forgetting a gajillion. Now I'm going to do a couple questions that I came up with because I'm also doing this as a mid-year writing check-in. Because if you didn't know, I wrote a book. My book, No Child of Mine, came out last year. It's my first novel ever. And that was really exciting. Very cool. And so this year I've been working on my second novel. It won't be out this year. It'll be out in 2025, hopefully. We actually don't have it on the schedule yet. And this year has been kind of like a rough writing year as well as a rough reading year. I think they might... I think the rough writing year was probably caused by the rough writing year. I wound up getting more edits than I had anticipated on my second book, which wound up meaning that it got pushed back in the schedule, which is okay. It happens a lot in publishing, but was stressful for me. It's like very normal, but like you don't expect it when you go into publishing. And so I've spent a lot of the first half of the year working on rewriting some substantial sections of my second book, which I can't even share the title yet. I will share stuff as soon as I can, but it's another horror book. If you're here because you followed me for Throne of Glass, my book that I actually wrote is like nothing like Throne of Glass. They bear nothing in common. But my second book is also nothing like Throne of Glass. They're both horror novels, but like pretty lightly horror. Like if you're not a big horror reader, I still think you're okay. The first one, I always call like soft girl horror. It's like there's like love letters and like a little ghost. The ghost is sometimes mean, but like it's like a haunted house story, love letters. My second one is like a little bit more thriller adjacent. Someone goes missing at the very beginning of the novel, and spooky Yuki stuff follows. But I can't talk too much about that second book, but I've been working on that for the majority of the first half of the year. But I turned in edits on that. The latest draft of that got turned in May. And so since then, so in the month of June, I've been working on a rom-com. Totally different gear. But I just like wanted something a little bit lighter. Writing books that are like so dark and heavy, like my first two novels, really took a toll on me. And so my second half of the year, I'm really hoping to finish up my rom-com and then hopefully go on a submission with it, which is essentially, if you're not familiar, the process where your literary agent, so my literary agent will take that book, that manuscript, and like shop it around to different publishers and see if anyone wants it. And I would love to be on submission with that book by the end of this year, but we'll kind of see. It's definitely a backseat project. I need to get my second book that is contracted done first. Those are the deals. But like books take forever. So like best case scenario, if I sold my romance book this year, it probably wouldn't be out until like the very end of 2026 because publishing is slow and pokey. So I will keep you updated, but that is like the big thing for the second half of the year. My big goal for the second half of the year is finishing that book. But I want to talk about my biggest writing win. And my biggest writing win, I'm actually going to grab it, was I actually won my first book, my debut novel, won an award. I won the Colorado Book Award for thriller, which is where they slotted my book, for my debut novel, which was like the coolest thing ever. It was very scary. I had to go up and like read a thing at this like award ceremony, but it was very cool. That's like my biggest writing win. Obviously I will be sharing more if anything comes. I don't talk a lot about writing on this channel, but if once I know things, I have like books that are contracted, I'll tell you. Don't even worry. And you can follow like my Instagram. My Instagram has more writing related stuff. If you are very interested in what's happening with me in the publishing side of my life, Instagram, TikTok are where it's at. YouTube tends to be more bookish content because I want to talk about what I'm reading. I'm just here to chit chat with the girls. You know, this is my girly little book club. If you're girly, non-gendered, we accept all genders into the girly book club. That's all I have. That was kind of a synopsis of the first half of my year and what I hope to come when it comes to reading and writing. If you want to follow along on my second half of the year, obviously subscribe. And yeah, I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.